Hello, everyone. Welcome to You're Not What You Study. It's our new concept, actually, that I've been thinking to do it since really long time because I believe designers, architects, all the creatives are super influenced by the choices of their colleagues in order to understand what they can do in the future, what's happening after studying, or what kind of path they should choose. So today I have a really special guest that he's like one of my closest friends that we studied together at Politecnico di Milano, architecture. And he took a completely different path than me. And I think he did good for himself and he has a lot to tell us. So let's welcome Uzi Rabia here with us.
Hello, darling.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
Very good. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm very pleased to talk to you in this media.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Actually, I've been waiting for this today because I have many questions to ask, even if I know most of them. But I think it's gonna lighten up a lot of architects or designers that are listening us or who are gonna listen us after. So basically, I want to just say that Uzi, where are you right now?
I'm in my house in Tel Aviv, Israel.
Yeah, so that's one of the most important topic that I want to mention. So because as we have a lot of international designers and architects in our community, everyone is from somewhere else. Everyone has different backgrounds and they go through different situations. So it's interesting to listen today someone who grew up not in Italy but studied in Italy in Milan. So I would like to ask you some questions about your path.
For sure.
Okay, so tell me about you a little bit. Who are you actually?
um, well, actually, just before everything, I met Elif at one of my first days in Italy, I think. We met when we were in a course to study a bit of Italian together before we made the exam to get into the university. Um, but before that, I was born in Tel Aviv. I grew up in Israel, and when I was a child, we went abroad to Santiago de Chile with my family. It was a project from my dad's work, and that kind of began my international, I don't know, desires or me wanting to someday spend a nice period of time outside of my country. It was very obvious for me that I will do it one day. And later, after the army here in Israel, I was like 21. I started working here and always keeping in mind, like, what am I going to do for studying? I already had the dream of becoming an architect, but I was still going back and forth thinking if I should go for it. Maybe I wanted also to be a product designer. Like, I had my my
Doubts.
my normal, yeah, my
So
normal doubts and thoughts.
actually, I really wanted to ask you like that not everyone knows that in Israel, so you have to do 3 years of military. So it's not like everyone's path starts differently. So yours starts to go to university 21 years old. So it reaches already like 3 years later than your colleagues or whoever going to study with you. So when I met with Uzi, actually he was like, for me back then the age difference is more like he was like, there is this guy that is like 21 years old or 22, like bigger than us. Like he came here and so he will study. So for us, like it was interesting to see someone already had experiences before even going to university. So like some
For sure.
people goes immediately after. Instead, you had like 3 years of different experiences. So how did it like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, socially, it was very, it had the advantages sometimes of being the big brother for, all of my peers and all of my colleagues. And so that gives like a good sensation of always being a bit more experienced and and specifically experiencing something that, because everybody came from from a different background, like different nationalities and religions also. So it's completely different experiences, and that is actually one of the things that pushed me the most to be in an international context, because it really is completely different life experiences. Um, we also have Greek friends or Turkish friends that experienced the army in their country, whether it's obligatory or not, and that is also very different. So that
Yeah, but in
that's
your
the
case, it's like everyone has to do it. So your like
yes, it's
cycle is,
obligatory.
and it's 3 years. So your cycle is like, which is your normal, which is normal for Israeli. But when you go abroad, which is not normal, because I mean, it's not normal here that you find out like you have to, after having the high school, that you have different experiences. So as I experienced this, that I saw like you're having a lot of troubles before going to university. Like you want to see a little bit. You want to take your time. So you all did it actually, and
Yeah.
maybe it helped you to be mature more in your decisions. And when I would like to know about this thing. Do you think that it was good for your study, that you had more time before deciding what you had to do, or you would prefer to go with the flow much before than
I
you did?
mean, it really is not a matter of choice, because for me it wasn't really a choice. It was something that I always saw myself doing, because it's something very collective that we do in the country. I mean, I'm not going to go into it, but today specifically we are celebrating, like every year, the Independence Day of Israel, together with the like National Memorial Day for the soldiers that we've lost. So it's really a collective thing in our country, and it was always clear for me that I will do it. So it's not about if I would have preferred a different way, but I can say that it had, for the university specifically and for acquiring my mestiere, let's say my job, my profession. Um, it had a lot of disadvantages also, because there's a lot of things that you do when you are um, a bit unshaped, when you're 18 or 19, sometimes even 17. You are more ready to do a lot of things. You take things for granted, like I did when I went to the army. I just took things for granted and did them the best I could. And when you get to the university, when you're 22 or 23, after you've experienced a bit in your life already, I had a lot of doubts with a lot of situations. Me personally, I'm not saying it's something that everybody did, but it was more difficult for me to maintain discipline in that way, being a bit older, I think. But
Which actually should be contrary, but I think it's
well,
also
that's
about being
me.
yeah, that's Uzi. And also at the school, like I remember, like you have this creative mind, like really easygoing, but at the same time super responsible. It's I think it comes with the culture. I also believe a lot, like you're really relaxed, but at the same time you were so responsible. Like responsible, it's a different I'm not sure if I could say
Yeah.
responsible, but I can say good of managing stress. So architectural
Yes.
schools can be really heavy. I think the young should know before going that they're going to go through a real, like, heavy program. But I remember, while studying, while having a lot of parties, while going out, you also worked in order to maintain yourself. So
Yeah.
how could you manage, like how would you suggest who wants to be a designer or architect in the future, like how while studying, like how do you think you made it? Because for me it was like a Superman. Like I was like, how, like he's partying still till 5 in the morning, then going to the work, and then actually giving the exam and the final.
I mean, there were a lot of sacrifices made to kind of try to eat the cake and live it whole too. Um, so I think every a bit of my work was sacrificed, a bit of my studies were sacrificed. Uh, a lot of architects will tell you that while you go to university, there is no possibility to work at all. I would agree with that normally, but my path was different because I did want to continue to maintain myself and receive the least amount of help that I could, and I wanted to be independent. I felt already mature enough to be independent, so I was always trying to combine these two things. I was working for Israeli security at airports all around Italy at the time, and it did hinder my studies, but I really did my best to always make the sacrifice as small as possible, you know?
Actually, that was one of the reasons that I wanted to have you as a guest, because for me, seeing all the sacrifice and someone really fun and someone really like um, able to manage these things is inspiring. Especially, I would say that whoever watches us, like, don't be afraid, like, because there's Uzi. If he did it, you can do it. Because I mean,
Thank
really,
you.
I want people to see examples, like they all come from different backgrounds, and also like you're not coming from a European country, so there's all other
Hmm.
hard parts that most of the international designers who are from Europe are able to move easily, because I'm from Turkey, so we have all other conflicts in order, visa problems like students, and you have to have a permesso, which is a permit of stay, and all these situations are, plus also working and plus also studying, can be complicated, but it's not possible. But do you
It,
think that this sacrifice worth it?
I mean, I lived my best life through university, and for me personally, it was worth it. Specifically, saying that we're trying to understand, maybe there is some cultural or national effect on the way we behave, and this ease that you were talking about, and this staying calm and like understanding that everything will be okay at the end. I think that is something that I did receive from my army experience and from growing up in a country which is a bit less laid back than other countries, to say the least, because like it just gives you a bit of uh, like it made me fill my toolbox with options of problem solving. And I think Gabri once told me that it's really a skill to see a problem in front of you and just like solve it to the best way, and not try to overthink what would be the best solution, but really give a quick solution to the problem and go on. And I think that is something that I have in me, and I take pride in it, and I really try to keep it also today as I progress in my career. The problems just keep getting more complicated and more difficult for me to solve. So I really always need to bring myself to that mindset of like, okay, one problem at
So
a
you mean
time,
like
solve.
stay, think, and like go step by step, solve it, and continue. So it's not like go in panic, and like most of the students or most of the people, that's because we experience with our friends as well while
A
studying,
lot.
that a lot
Yeah,
was like going, oh, what am I doing in life? So you mean that you should stop, make a break and breathe to continue with the hard
for sure,
situation.
for
So
sure.
you studied, and you didn't stop. You also did your master here in Milan, in Politecnico di Milano. So it's like 3 years plus 2 years, which is a long study. And you also managed to do that. But I would like to ask you, like, what would you suggest? Because for me, it's important, who is watching us, to say, what would you suggest that after graduating you should immediately go to master, or for you it was just because you didn't know what to do and you did the master, like you didn't want to wait and you just wanted to finish, or you think people should stop and in this situation also think, breathe, and like choose their masters?
I really think think obviously it depends very individual per person, but my dream at the end of the road was to become an architect. It was very important for me. It still is here in Israel. After the studies, we have 3 years of it's not really a stage, but it's like kind of a specialistica, that we have to work in an office and deliver all of our projects, and later after that we can do the tests to get recognized and actually get our license as architects. So it's a long road, and for me it's a road that I am more than happy to take because it is my aspiration. Um, and I know that it is my path, but also I think that when I had doubts about studying architecture, I felt safe because I knew that, and you see it a lot, especially in Milan, because I knew that architecture would be like an umbrella that will hold all of the design professions inside of it. So I knew that if I studied for 3 years and I saw that it was not going the way that I wanted, or that I needed to change path or something like that, I knew that there are so many things that are very interesting and close to me from the world of design and on fashion and of product design. I knew that architecture could take me to any one of those. So that I think that was very calming for me before choosing architecture. That I knew that if it was not going to work out, I'm not losing anything because I am still in the world which this is the world I want to work
To
in.
be in.
And we see it a lot with example from people that we actually started with. And in Milan, you see it a lot because design in Milan is something that is like, it just, you feel it in the city. And today, not living in Milan, I can totally look back and say, wow, it really is a city of design and
So
architecture, of course, but
you miss a little bit to be here
a
and
lot,
like here with
a
us.
lot. A lot, and
Yeah.
especially sadly with COVID, it was like I already had tickets for the Salone del Mobile 2019, 2020, and it was really a disaster.
I mean, yeah, actually, we don't have enough inspiration at this moment, but it's really important for us actually to have inputs, different situations, different events,
Hmm.
and I understand like that how it's like blocks us at the moment, but um it's gonna come out, it's gonna come back. So I think it's
Yes,
later on
totally.
we won't have this problem. But I also know that you after graduated, like everyone has this problem of like, what am I going to do, if am I going to find a job, like what should I do? And we also worked together with you sometimes, while
True.
you were like, you didn't know like what decision to take. So one of the most important decision you took was actually going back to Israel, because I don't think it was like a easy decision to leave everything and go back. Why did you make such a decision before even getting like finding a job or anything, something like that? Isn't because you're coming from Milan, where there's all this, like, as we talk, all this inputs about design, and then you go back to your home country. So it's actually a question from all the designers, like it doesn't mean that wherever you go you have to stay or you have to take a path that everyone takes. You can always
Yes.
go back. So why did you make this decision?
Actually, the decision, if you remember, was not difficult at all for me. I spent almost 8 years in Milan. It was a long time, and I knew that there's a lot of inspiration there and a lot of input that I can, take from for the designer in me, But also my roots were calling me very strongly. My family, my small niece and my small nephew that were waiting here in Israel, and I felt like I was missing a lot from them. So I I wanted to also keep in mind my career all the time, and I think that I did make good decisions by coming to Israel because I knew that I could immediately start working. So it is less inspiring for me as a person, me personally, but but I was already at the point in my life that I wanted to be more grounded. I wanted to be, when you're in your own country.
I remember exactly you saying, I want to shine and I want to be the star. So in sense about what you're doing. So I remember this perfectly. And it was you're in the road to do it. So I'm so happy because you
Thank
said,
you.
okay, we are, and it's also true. We are in Milan, there's a lot, but there's also a lot of saturation. So whoever saturation of architects, designers, or any kind of stuff.
Yes,
So if you're
also
coming
true.
from abroad to have some experiences, I could say also for my own personal experiences, that if you go back, you already did something that's not
Extra.
everyone did. So you did something
Yeah,
extra. You had extra
for sure.
experiences meeting with many
Yeah,
people. So I
yeah,
remember you had this plan in I'm gonna shine. Like in sense that it's also true. Like you are a perfect, you have a really good soul, and you're fun, you are like creative, you have all these beautiful things in you. But obviously if you go back, you have your family there, you have a support that is more like immediate, because here
yes.
there's a lot of sacrifice apart from the studies or anything. Just being abroad is
Just being a foreigner was something that really like took a toll on me, and not to toot my own horn, but I was one of the foreigners that because I speak fluent Spanish, I immediately started to speak fluent Italian. I became very integrated within the Italian society, which was something that not a lot of the foreigners did. And I felt very comfortable in Milan. But still, what you're saying, that sentence about the shining is like, I felt that I was shining already in Milan. I Every year was a different situation of brillo, of shining. Sometimes less, sometimes more, but each year I was more and more part of that city. I felt at home. But there was something about me that knew that being in my own country with the support of my people from my roots, really, I knew that I could maybe shine a bit brighter, maybe, I don't know.
no. Yeah, obviously you were like the one of the few people I know that who spoke English, Italian actually, because that's true. In Italy, it's really hard, especially if you're into working and making Italian friends, because
Yeah,
there is this thing
my
in
thing was
university.
being funny
Whoever,
in Italian. Like, I
yeah,
mean, until the day
it's
that
hard.
if I couldn't be funny in Italian, I was like, okay, I don't exist,
I'm giving up.
So I'm giving up. So my thing was really, I wanted to make people laugh in Italian before anything else. That was one of my first goals, and I went for it.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying, like because you were able to do it, you also had like Italian friends. Most of the international students, they're not experiencing it. Also, I really suggest, well, wherever they go or whatever they see decided to do, I think you should try to learn the language of the country that you're going. Like I see it with you, that's like you were like Uzi, also in Italian. You were like explaining yourself, describing yourself the way you want it. So I think it's not just, okay, I can still speak in English and solve my problems, but it's more
Yeah,
about integrating yourself to the culture. Especially in Italy, you feel it a lot. Like whoever wants to study, like you should
yeah.
learn Italian in order, not for the school or
And
for the
actually,
study.
everywhere I look about it, I used to look at it when I was in Milan. I used to think like, oh, it's here. You need to just. But now that I'm aware of this, I look at it everywhere I go, and also here in Israel, when people come from abroad to study here, or to work here, or to live here, and they come from a different culture, it's always very important to know the language in order to integrate. In order to really become, in order to feel at home. I would say.
Yeah, that's really important, so important. But apart from everything, like you still decided to go back, and you had a really good offer from a really big company, Italian, like actually furniture company, but you decided to not to, because you said, I want to be an architect, I want to do what I study. So and you wanted to, you accept to do a go to a smaller company that is more about architecture, doing really big architectural projects, but in the end it's not maybe like the ones that is known as a brand, Italian brand, that you were going to
Yeah.
work as mostly like a buying design pieces, like it's something more like
It was actually more something that had to do more with like import and sales and things like that. And I really wanted to use my Italian flair, let's say that, here in Israel. Like I wanted to bring the language that I know and the culture that I know and to use it. And I definitely will use it
and
in my future here for
it would
sure.
definitely bring you a much plus than working, but you still said no. In sense, it's a good thing. I really want to talk about it because it's really hard to make this decision for
It was a
for
moment that I because to start with an architectural firm, because I worked the whole time that I was in university, I felt like I had too much mud on my boots in order to start from zero, in order to suddenly become like make a lot less money and become like this new kid on the block, in whatever office I made. I felt in Milan like I was doing business and I wanted to continue to be a, a man that does business, that works for money, and that's what I lived already. So I didn't want to go back. But then I had a moment of realization that it's now or never, that if I don't go for architecture, continue to pursue my dream like the whole way with everything that I need to do for it, that I'm not going to do it later if I already continue on to do other
obviously
businesses.
you have to do 3 years of experience, and if you don't do it
Hmm.
now, when? And so
Exactly.
you have to, it's still a sacrifice. So like life is all about making sacrifices,
It
and
was a
you
sacrifice when I made the decision, but today I don't see it anymore as that, because today, after almost 2 years of experience out of these three, I really understand that architecture is really, if you think that you know too much, you're probably wrong. There's always things to learn, and the way is so long, and I like that. I like that it's not like a, easy bake oven, like quick. I like that it's a career that takes a lot of time to cook, and it will be like a good whatever at the end, like a good meal at the end, because it's something that takes good things are
yeah,
good
taking
things come to
time.
those who wait.
And yeah, so in the end you're doing this, yeah, you're going with this decision, and it's for me it was shocking because I would thought Uzi would go with the easy decision. I don't know why. Like even if he, like I was, he would be like, okay, let me make some money, and like I will be in a known like, because it's also prestige thing that people might say, oh, why you didn't get this offer for like a bigger known company, and like like in sense that obviously architectural companies are big as well, but comparing to like I don't know how to differentiate different styles of countries, like
Hmm.
companies. Sometimes people also say, "Ah, die, like do this instead of doing that." I think you should never listen to someone, or if someone did so something like that, because it happens in for when you're a student, you don't know what to do, so you ask someone, but you listen to your heart and you
Yeah,
listen to what you want to do for your life. So I'm happy that you did decision and you're
thank
continuing
you.
being an
I'm also
architect.
happy. I'm also happy, and I also, I think, for if someone that is seeing us are like students or people that are aspiring to be architects, I I think that with each year that passes and more experience that I gain, that the 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 way is more clear for me. Like my career path, obviously you can never know, but my career path today is something that is more clear for me. I kind of know where my next step will be also, and it's just a matter of taking it each day at a time.
So tell me about a little bit of your projects that you're doing, because I saw some of them and they look really cool. So I would like to know how is to be working in Israel as an architect. Let's go to the point that how does it work there? Like how you get it, like or how is it? Do you develop them privately, or there's a lot of public involved in the projects, like, or you have restrictions, or a much free country that you can do whatever you want, like, because it's
Hmm.
also interesting. In
Very,
Italy, we already
very.
know like these kind of things that are really harder. So I would like to know how is it there.
In Israel, first of all, there's a lot of building going on, new constructions and what is it? Like reconstruction of old
Yeah.
building and conservation of old buildings. Like there's a lot of architecture going on, and so there's a lot of firms. That's what I was going to say. And with the firm that I'm working in now, it's called Yaron Israel Architects, and it was very immediate. It's a small office that they do a lot of um, also residential buildings and also public places, and it was very immediate, the click for me with the owner and also with the colleagues, and just the beginning of work. It was how do you say, very fulfilling as a first job in architecture. But as far as architecture in Israel, it's very, very confining. Also, there is a lot of back and forth with municipalities, and and a lot of laws that you need to go by. Also in Israel, think that there's another thing of bunkers in each apartment or house or building. You always need to have a safe room, that is full cement and with ironing and all of that. So it's
You mean
also
for
another.
like safe room for after, not like safe room for who is okay, like
No, safe room that is safe from missile attacks
okay, so it's an interesting topic
and has
actually.
a ventilation system built within each new house in Israel has that. And a lot of old buildings are going through this renovation process of adding outside of the building a safe box that will create like a safe room in each one of the floors. So just on the tip of the fork, it's just another thing
Hmm.
that we have here that maybe in other places it's kind of different. Um, but after 2 years in working as an architect, I feel that you start knowing all the laws by heart and all of the requirements, so you make less errors, and then there's less back and forth, and you can give an immediate, a almost close to perfect delivery at the first time. And I just aspire to continue this way, continue the growth.
But do you think it's more complicated for someone who studies abroad and then go back, because like you study abroad and you went back to Israel to work, so
Uh,
your base is completely different than who graduated in
yeah,
Israel, I think. So
I was
do you
very,
think it's
I was
harder?
I was afraid of that, but actually, the experience taught me that I had a bit of like, oh, what is this here? What is that there? But a lot of the standards are similar in Israel and in Europe, and a lot of the requirements also are similar. So my background from university was enough to get me. I did need to be a bit sharper and a bit like, like okay, and understand the new things, but it didn't really bother that much. I mean, for me
Do you
personally,
think you having these experiences makes you different than your colleagues?
I think I'm overcoming these problems of feeling like a new kid on the block always, and my,
No, not in
specific.
that sense, to make you feel different in a good way. I was asking, like, does it make you
If I
feel
have
like
an
it?
advantage, I mean,
Yeah.
more than anything, really more than anything, is for my self sense and for how I see myself, for my confidence level and my persona. So it contributes to that for sure, and that can help me, um, in the future. But as an architect specifically, I mean, I have it's a small office. So I have not a lot of colleagues, and in front of them, I see that they have advantages that I also don't have by staying in Israel and studying here and knowing more about Israeli architecture than me. And so I do have my knowledge about Italian architecture. If and it just shapes the architect that I am, but I don't see that it's in specific points it helps me more than other. It's really more for myself, of my sense of self.
I really believe, by the way, in this thing, like the education is like just the base. If you go abroad, the experience that counts is like
For sure.
self-confidence, knowing how to express yourself, knowing how to open your mind, because you have different inputs, different people around. So you are
Hmm.
more likely to be open to new ideas. Because if you don't do it for yourself already, like I think it's harder to open up the mind to, and creatives should be open to
For
any
sure.
kind of other input. So maybe that's really shaped you up, and like you're more like
And other than that, I mean, not to, not to conclude or anything, but other than that, it helps from creating a really a meta ring of people that we know, like abroad. And for me, it's something that is priceless. I always look forward for collaborations with the people, my friends that studied with me in Milan. We are scattered all over the world at the moment. Everybody, because of COVID, is also at their home in their origin country, almost all of us. And it's a ring of connections that for me really is priceless. We do trips all over the world together, and we visit each other. We go to each other's weddings and celebrations, and we collaborate, as we're doing now in this interview. And then maybe that is an advantage that if I would have stayed here in Israel, I wouldn't experience.
that's for sure. And I'm so happy that we can reach the other people who have other students in the of the future, or maybe now but
Yeah,
they want to change their life, that we can enlighten about like how is the experience of studying abroad, but also going back to our hometowns later of the at the end of the day. And I think as you said, it's really important to enlarge the networking, because life is all about also networking, and I really believe that it's one of the most important things for business wise, but also personal life,
for
in order to
sure.
have like knowledge of other people. Another question that come to my mind, and is I think it's interesting that in Israel, if do you think there are many architects, international architects, not Israeli going back as an architect after studying, but coming from abroad as a foreigner to work in Israel?
Hmm.
Is it something common?
Uh, I don't know if it's that common as far as something that people come here for a job, like for a job opportunity or something like that. But I do think we have a lot of uh, Jewish people from abroad that made their career abroad, and they made what is called aliyah, which is like Jewish people coming to live in Israel at a more later period of their life. Maybe, I don't know, a 35, 40-year-old architect that did his whole career in Paris, and he's coming to live now in Israel because that's his life choice. And that is something that I do feel in the general atmosphere that exists here, that
So
affects
it can be
from.
done. I mean, if I want to come, if I want to come and work with you one day, like maybe it's harder, but you mean at least there are people going, like, because it's interesting that when it's not in Europe, the countries, it's really different, because I know that it's different
Mhm.
than the moving just in European Union. That it's much easier, but moving from just out of Europe, from with the background you have, and going back to and work somewhere else. So um, you're thinking to create a community there, that the like, do you have any thoughts for the future, to use this network and like maybe do something for Israel, like with other architects, other people coming, bringing some of the knowledge and the network you had to Israel, or you're still in the decision part of what you want to do after study? Like you already started to work, so what is the next step for you?
First of all, Israel is very open to people coming from the outside, like not only with architecture, but with science and medicine and engineering. And so that's like, just let's put it out there, you know. Um, Me personally, I am I have not yet planned all my being an independent architect yet, you know, and I do know that it's something that will have to happen in the same line and the same time as working in a bigger office, because I do feel that is something that I really want to continue doing, you know, working on big projects that as an independent architect, just starting my own way, I am not going to be able to work on, you know, skyscrapers and, you know, huge public
Yeah, you need a
buildings
you
and
need an
things of that.
established company. You need an established
Exactly,
studio.
exactly. So, and my heart is really going to that direction a lot. So I am looking forward to continue, you know, moving forward to bigger companies. But on the side, yes, a lot of collaborations and working on my, you know, independent projects, specifically also, you know, giving a voice to the part of design in me, something that I would love to do with collaborations. For example, we had an idea with a couple of friends of creating a specific chair for a hotel that they are in contact with. So it will be like a chair that we want to design, you know, in like when we are three people. So we wanted to design a chair and collectively, you know, make it like a symbol of us, you know. So that is something that it's in the works. It's still in the initial design, but these kind of projects are for surely, you know, blessings that can bless the way with working in an office also.
No, yeah, even like just an idea of I don't know. Do you have a design week in Israel? Because I'm not. I don't know if you do a design
Yeah,
week
there
like
is
we did.
design week for sure. Also, a lot of collaborations and people come from abroad to talk and to showcase their things. It's not specifically exactly like in Milan. I think it's more of an it's not scattered all over the country. As far as I know, maybe I should check my knowledge, but as far as I know, it's not scattered all over the country like it is in all over the city in Milan, but it's concentrated in like a fair kind of situation in Tel Aviv,
Okay, so that's what I was
I think.
thinking and asking you. Actually, would you bring something that you experienced here to Israel to put something up, something in the future? Do you have this thing to, okay, we can do also this in Israel. We can have, I don't know, this kind of young exhibition, because I know there are many designers and many good designers in Israel and really good, cool projects. I always follow and I see you have like, and also magazines that are going, and a lot of architects going and presenting their works, like going internationally, but
For sure.
doing something um, as someone who experienced something in abroad. Do you plan to do any events? Because I know that you like events and organizing these kind of things. I'm asking you this
True.
because whoever watch us, if they're interested, if you're interested, maybe you can also do something in Israel. I think I would love to do something in Tel
Me
Aviv,
too,
for
for
example.
sure. We need to start planning that maybe after this interview.
Yeah, so that's why I ask you. Maybe we can think of something doing it, and we can use our network to bring one more team to your hometown.
I always say also everything that's happening with the Isola Design District and Design Festival and everything that I've seen you do from when we first met, always very, apart from being very inspiring, always very reminded me of things that are going on in Tel Aviv, you know, which is like young people, very determined and just putting things out there without a lot of overthinking about it, just creating their best work and putting it out there immediately. And I've seen you grow through the years, you know, and become like a huge, you know, like empire of things that you guys do. And that is very inspiring, and also very always took me to things that are done here in Tel Aviv also as well.
So I think we're coming at the end of our interview, let's say the talk actually, because I don't call it interview. I could ask you much more stuff, but I ask you mostly about who wants to be an architect and who wants to experience these things to see what you've been through. Because I believe, as I told before, that you had like you didn't have a normal path, like it's okay, you go abroad, you go back, and you actually made sacrifice, but you had a lot of fun. So you managed to do your mental health and your
For
mental
sure.
health, your economical situation, but also your career. Three of the things together, which is, to be honest, personally, not so easy. So I'm happy that you share with us your experiences. Would you like to add something else? Would you say young Uzi something? What would you say to young Uzi, like if you would be watching
Well,
yourself right now?
young Uzi, like,
Yeah, like when you were
like
young.
to the 7-year-old me, I would say a lot of things. But no, when you were talking, I really remembered like that thing of like just doing the career path and the university. If we are giving advices, then just try not to be very judgmental to a lot of people, because there's a lot of people in university which they are there and they are giving their 100%, and there are a lot of people who want to become an architects and they want to continue to other paths in life also, and that is also fine. They are not less of, they're not less of an architect, and they're not less of a university student, you know. And that is something that I really
The
you know take
competition
I
also
take
in
pride in
university.
that, because there's a lot of people that also studied with us and they were great students and everything, and they continue to a path that it has nothing to do with architecture, you know. And sometimes people just want to have that experience of receiving knowledge and being educated, so that's also fine, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So you say to young Uzi, don't care.
No
Just do whatever
judgment.
you want. Not yeah, that's true. It's really, study might be like really judgment, especially also the friends and competitions that you're having with the people. You shouldn't. You just should do whatever you feel like and listen to
I mean,
yourself.
especially in Milan, we were so many people studying architecture, you know, and they expect that each of these people will do the same exact path, not only after university, but in university. I think is just an unnecessary expectation, you know.
Yeah, I agree. So
Like always.
I think yeah, I think we're gonna finish our talk. We talk a lot. So if someone has a
I
question,
had
I'm
such a
gonna
good time.
leave your contact under, and our contact in
Feel
case they can
free.
always contact you. And hope to see you in the future with different projects and with
Yeah.
different collaborations.
I had such a good time. Thank you so much for having me, really.
We are so happy to have you,
And for
Uzi. Thank
everybody
you for
watching
accepting
also.
my invitation. And yeah, hope to see you soon, actually.
Much love.
Ciao.